Good evening. Welcome to the San Dimas City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 11th. This is also a successor agency combined meeting. Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of San Dimas and the successor agency for today, May 11th. On May 11th, this City Council meeting will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order N-2920. The City Council chambers will be open at 50% capacity. All attendees must wear masks and observe 6-foot social distancing. Seating will be limited. Pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order dated March 17, 2020, the City Council is authorized to hold public meetings via teleconferencing and to make meetings accessible electronically to all members of the public seeking to observe and to address the legislative body. All Brown Act provisions that require the physical presence of city councilmen or the public for City Council meetings are waived. Please review pages 6 through 7 of the document for instructions for public participation. Directions for public comment period. There will be 3 options for members of the public to participate during oral communications. There will be 1 oral communications period at the beginning of the meeting for the public to comment on any matter on or off the agenda. Each speaker will have 1 3-minute opportunity to make their comments. At the 2-minute mark, staff will announce 1 minute remains. Public comments will be not taken during each individual agenda item, except the public comment will be taken separately for public hearings. Public comments will be taken in the following order. Written comments received by email before 5 p.m. will be provided to the council, posted on the website, acknowledged by name and topic, and added to the permanent record. In-person participants. Phone participants may call 909-394-6206 before the closure of the public comment period. Public comments may also be submitted by logging onto the meeting through Zoom link provided in the agenda package. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First off, I'd like to welcome all those in attendance in the first meeting as we move forward from the pandemic. We are at 50% occupancy, and the staff will ensure that we're following the rules. Thank you. Okay, this month is the Older American Month. Honoree is Pamela Johnson. Okay, I'm going to read it. City of San Dimas Proclamation. Whereas for the past 58 years, the month of May has been proclaimed throughout the county as Older American Recognition Month. And whereas the City of San Dimas recognizes that older adults are trailblazers, advocating for themselves, their peers, and their communities, paving the way for future generations. And whereas we appreciate the value of inclusion and support in helping older adults successfully contribute to and benefit from their communities. And whereas during the month of May, the City of San Dimas is celebrating the birthdays of those residents who this year have obtained the age of 90 and older. And whereas Pamela Johnson, active participant in our city's senior program, has been selected to represent the city at the Los Angeles County Older American Recognition Celebration in Los Angeles, as well as in other events and activities. And whereas the City of San Dimas Senior Citizens Club, the Bingo Committee, and the Senior Citizens Commission are commended for their volunteer commitments and financial contributions for the betterment of the San Dimas Senior Citizen Community Center and the residents of San Dimas. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Emmett Badar, Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Bertone, Council Member John Ebner, Ryan Vienna, and Eric Weber do hereby proclaim May as Older American Month and urge every citizen to take time this month to recognize older adults and the people who serve and support them as powerful and vital citizens who are greatly contributed to this community. In witness thereof, I, Mayor Emmett Badar, have hereon set my hand and caused the seal of the City of San Dimas to be affixed this 11th day of May, 2021. Pamela Johnson is truly a representative of this community and to our senior citizens. I think Dennis would like to say a few words before we make the presentation.
Just like to say a few words about Pamela. Pamela has lived in the City of San Dimas for 39 years.
Mike.
How long?
Your mic.
Sorry about that. Pam has lived in the City of San Dimas for 39 years and has always been a volunteer in this community. And when her two children were growing up, Pam volunteered for the PTA president, scout leader, softball coach, band booster, snack bar manager, and PTSA board member, and on the Order of Merit committee. Through her catering business, Pamela has donated meals to several local homeless shelters, including Holy Name of Mary in San Dimas. That's all I can say about Pam. She's on the Senior Commission, and someone just wrote about, this sums up what Pamela is. It says, Pam is always there to help when asked to help. And she is always there, so she's well deserved it, and congratulations.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce, I believe, Dawn Barba? Dawn, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's Dominique Borba, and they call me Dom. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight, in addition to honoring our Older American honoree, we have two additional presentations. We have invited our Senior Commission Chair, Ed Wolf, to report on the Senior Foundation, along with our Senior Club Treasurer, Debbie Malouf, who will report on the Senior Club. At this time, we will invite Mr. Wolf to present.
Thank you, Don. Council members, nice to see you. I have not met two of you. I know three of you. And I hope I get a chance to speak with Mr. Weber and Mr. Vienna sometime soon. Let me take off my sheriff's mask for a second so you guys can hear me a little better. I'll give you a brief history of the foundation first, and I'll have to read it, so I'm old. Bear with me. The San Dimas Senior Citizen Commission Foundation was established in 1984 by the San Dimas Senior Citizen Commission as a nonprofit public benefit corporation to financially support the development of a San Dimas Senior Citizen Center via donations and fundraising. The San Dimas Senior Citizens Commissioners serve dual roles as city commissioners and directors of the foundation and operate with guidance and assistance from staff. The specific and primary purposes of the Commission Foundation are to improve the quality of life of senior citizens in San Dimas and/or those senior citizens participating in Parks and Recreation Department programs, to provide advice to and, when recommended by city staff, support for operation and services of the San Dimas Senior Citizen Community Center. The Foundation advises Parks and Recreation Department staff on the use of funds derived from gifts or donations that are accepted by the Foundation. The Foundation takes such action as the board may deem feasible to encourage and solicit gifts in support of the purchase of major and/or non-expendable items required for the operation of San Dimas Senior Citizens Community Center. Past support to the San Dimas Senior Community Center has included copiers, lobby chairs, ice makers, dishwashers, televisions, sound system. That was before our revision of the bylaws, which happened in 2017. Since then, we've been more active, and we have gone ahead and added to that list a new sound system, a sound bar, a 75-inch entertainment center, smart television, new lobby furniture, reconditioned furniture in the quiet lounge in the library, maintenance of both pianos, tuning, etc. And going forward, we hope to hold a yearly dinner dance either at Valentine's Day or sometime in the fall like we did in 2018. I passed around a kind of a portfolio in a brown thing for you guys to take a look at if you'd like. In it are our amended bylaws, Swinging for Seniors program from 2018, sample news release, sample flyer, a sample sponsor deck, and the budget for the dinner dance that we had in November 3rd, 2018. If you bear with me, I do have a statement of our financial situation, and I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I'll give you guys some totals if that's all right. Our checking account, we have a total of $6,357. In our money market account, our total is $7,199.06. We're required in our savings account to keep a balance of $5, which we have done for years. There's still a $5 balance in there. So our total, if you add that all up, is $13,561.06. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, that gives you a brief rundown of what the Foundation's doing. I was fortunate, Dennis helped appoint me to the commission in 2011, and I've been the chairperson since 2016. And hopefully in September, if my physical situation allows, I'll be reappointed for probably my last term. So thank you for letting me present tonight. And if you have any questions or want to speak to me after the meeting, that'd be great. Thank you.
Ed, I just wanted to say thank you for all the work you do, and I can tell you that each one of these council members strongly supports the Senior Citizens Program. It isn't one person, it's every one of them is a strong supporter of the programs that we have. And I think, Dom, where are you? You there? I can't see. She does an excellent job, and the people that work for the city really enjoy working in the program, and that's why they go off so well. So thank you and your commission and the staff and all the council members, including myself and the mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis.
You know, I just want to say one thing, Ed. I think it would be remiss by not saying that I know that Ed has worked very, very hard with the seniors. But it goes without saying, he's went very, very hard working for our students. Ed retired from San Dimas High School running the music program for as long as I could possibly remember. And every day when you talk to kids that have graduated, who've come back and moved back here to San Dimas, they'll always talk to you about, Ed Wolf and his music program. And I just think that he should be commended. I think at one point we did commend you at a city council meeting, but thank you for staying connected, and thank you for working with our seniors. And a guy as young as you should be around for quite a while. Okay? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and community attendees. I'm Debbie Maloof, and I am Treasurer of the San Dimas Senior Citizens Club and Chair of the Bingo Committee. And I'm here this evening to update you on the Senior Club. Due to the pandemic, we weren't able to hold our elections in November of 2020 for our board. Unfortunately, our president, Diana Roberts, recently resigned to a family illness, as did my bingo co-chair, Carol Touchette. Carol served in this position for 10 years. These women will be greatly missed for their contributions to the Senior Club and senior activities. Jay Pace, who is our first vice president, has assumed the role of president. The first VP and membership is Diane Savwell, and Yolanda Gonzalez will continue on as our secretary. We have had 2 safe, socially distanced, and outdoor board meetings since October. We voted to extend the current 83-member membership roster for the coming year. And the staff at the Senior Center has mailed out a letter prepared by our President Jay that's stating the updates here described. We're very pleased and applaud the selection of Pam Johnson as Older America 2021, but we call her our Awesome American. Congratulations, Pam. Despite our inability to meet as a board on a regular basis through safe communications, we were able to approve and provide donations from March 2020 to April 2021 to the following entities serving our senior community: the San Dimas Cares Project, Meals on Wheels for San Dimas Laverne, Hope Partners Food Pantry in San Dimas, which is housed at the House of Joy Church. These donations have thus far totaled $7,700. We're anxiously looking forward to safely resuming our club meetings, our senior activities, bingo, and our social events. As a board, we so appreciate Dominique, Orlando, Paige, and Nadia, the Senior Center staff, for always keeping us updated on the remodel of the center and the happenings and plans moving forward for the seniors of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you, Debbie. At this time, we'd like to bring up Pamela Johnson to receive her Older American Award.
At this time, if anyone wants to take pictures, feel free to come up and step up, take some pictures.
Smile. You're not smiling.
How can you tell?
Pam Johnson, our older senior citizen.
Congratulations.
At this time, we have a safety seat checkup week, safety belts, Safe USA. Our city clerk, our assistant city clerk, Leslie, will read the proclamation.
Safety Seat Checkup Week. Whereas the #1 preventable cause of death and injury to children and young adults is the automobile collision, and whereas 90 child passengers under 15 are killed more than 12,000 injured in automobile collisions in California each year. Whereas 71% of small children killed in crashes would be alive today if they had been properly restrained in child safety seats. And whereas 45% of injuries to child occupants ages 4 to 8 could be prevented with the use of booster seats. And whereas more than 90% of child safety seats are used incorrectly, and whereas the state of California requires that all occupants ride restrained properly in safety seats or safety belts with children in the back seat until at least age 8. And whereas crash-tested safety seats are moderately priced and widely available for purchase at retail stores at low cost from safety seat distribution programs throughout California. And whereas Safety Belt Safe USA has been dedicated for more than 41 years to protecting children from injury or death while being transported in a motor vehicle. Now therefore, I, Emmett G. Bedard, Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Bertone, Council Members John Ebner, Ryan A. Viena, and Eric Weber hereby proclaim that May 16th through 22nd, 2021, as Safety Seat Checkup Week. In witness thereof, I, Mayor Emmett G. Bedard, have hereon set my hand and caused the seal of the City of San Dimas to affix this 11th day of May 2021.
Thank you. And the staff will get the proclamation to the people that are responsible. Thank you. We'll move to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar, excuse me, we're going to go to oral communications first. Okay. Madam City Clerk, do we have any written comments?
The City Clerk's office received one public comment from Phil Ebner regarding the quality of life meeting, 3 public comment emails in opposition of item 5A for the public hearing on tonight's meeting from Tracy Ixnor, Renee Aguileres, and concerned citizens.
Thank you. No further written comments? Do we have any in-person speakers?
Mayor, the first speaker we have tonight is Jimmy Janetta.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf, my name is Gurbachan Juneja, but I use Jimmy Juneja as my nickname. And I'm a professional engineer, environmental engineer. I worked for the LA County Sanitation District for 34 years. While I was working there, I had dealing with your staff. And here I came to oppose the construction of that Arco gas station. Arco gas station is there for a long time. I think it may be over 40 years. And your staff is saying they're remodeling it, but in other words, they're constructing the new building. The new building, and it has to be, hydraulic stacks to be removed, building has to be taken out and put the new one in. There are so many environmental issues that has not been taken care. I came to the city and I asked them, do you have the phase 1? The planner said, what's the phase 1? And I was surprised, shocked that they don't even know what the contaminated soil is, and they didn't even ask for it. I personally believe that's a major issue. We live close by, and neighbors need to be protected. Gas station, all the issues should be addressed before we even go ahead with the new building there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of order. I'm not sure that if we read the oral communications instructions.
We read it before. I read the whole thing.
Oh, all right.
And I went to page 7, too.
Okay.
The next speaker would be Richard Fuss.
Let me ask the city manager, just real quick. Was what I read in the beginning this admonition, or was it something different?
I believe you went through all the parameters for doing oral communication to the public.
Thank you.
Next speaker would be Chris Gabriel.
Is there somebody outside?
Mr. Mayor, we have
item? Christie will speak on a public agenda item.
That testimony would be taken during the public hearing.
During the public hearing.
So we should, I think we should encourage anybody who's going to speak about the ARCO remodel and beer and wine license to wait until the public hearing. Is that right, Jeff?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John.
The next speaker would be Nora Chen.
It's nice seeing the librarian again.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Okay, my name is Nora Chen, as the manager at St. Dimas Library. Today I'm going to share some updates with you. First, it's not a very pleasant news that the library will be closing for another building maintenance. It will start next week. And the library will be expected to reopen in late August. So the last day for our current sidewalk service will be this Friday, May 14. And during this closure, the book drop will still remain open for public to return materials. And for the library services, such as hose pickup or in-person service, people can go to the library for browsing the materials. It will be at the Laverne libraries. We understand this is not a very welcome news, and actually it's a little bit disappointing to the community. However, that we do have several projects including the roof, the heater system, and the AC system will take place during this closure. And we received customers' comment why we cannot do this during the COVID closure, because the county needs to order some equipment from other country. And due to the COVID, and all the shipment has been delayed. And after they received everything, that they can start the plan. So everything has been delayed, and we really feel very sorry and apologize for the inconvenience we will bring to our community. So the good news is, starting in June, that we will offer the outdoor program in front of the library building. Even the library is closed, we will still try our best. And every Monday, every day we'll have 3 programs, and including the children program, teen program, adult program, and in different times. And we are still planning on the details. So families still can join our program during this closure. So it will start in June. So the first program will be on June 7th. So the details will be on our website and on our Facebook. So, and another thing is because it's closed, even the physical library is closed, but the online library is never closed. You can access a lot of the collection, digital books, the e-books, and the music, the movies online. And thanks for your understanding.
Thank you very much. We look forward to you opening up again.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any more in-person speakers? Seeing there are none. Speakers on the telephone. John, do we have any callers? Yes.
Thank you for calling. Please state your name for the record, and your 3 minutes starts now.
Thank Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Tracy. I'm a land use and environmental attorney, and tonight I'm speaking on behalf of my client, Brenda Haber, as well as several other concerned city residents. Specifically, our concerns and objections to Agenda Item 5 relate to the lack of environmental review for this project. I submitted a letter today, which you should have before you, so I won't rehash the legal issues raised in the letter, as I'm sure that your city attorney will advise you as to those points. But I do want to reiterate our main concern.
Mayor, I'm going to break in here and let the public and the speakers know that since the item that we have on the agenda tonight is item 5A, is a public hearing, anyone wishing to speak on that item should wait until the public hearing for that item, and there will be an opportunity to speak there. And that's important because you want to get your testimony about the project on the record at the public hearing. And if you make your statements now, they will not be part of the official public hearing for that project. So if anyone wants to speak about anything other than the public hearing item tonight, then they're free to do so at this time.
Did you understand, ma'am?
Yes, I apologize. I was told that this was the public hearing.
Now, the public hearing will be in a few minutes.
Yes, I understand. I'll hold.
Thank you, ma'am. Next.
Ma'am, if you can call us back, that would be great. We'll have to release this line, so please call us back.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, we have no callers for public comments at this time.
Give it
we just
about a
have
minute.
callers for public hearing.
Give it about a minute. All right, we'll move on. That was probably about closer to a minute and a half to got a late start on the minute. Okay, any speakers on Zoom or any streaming platform?
Yes, we have a few people on Zoom.
Okay.
If you wish to take part in oral communication on Zoom and are joining us by internet device, please locate the Zoom raise hand feature and click on the hand icon. For those who dialed into Zoom, press *9 on your phone now to raise the hand feature in Zoom. You will be identified by your screen name for internet device and the last 4 digits of caller ID for dialed-in participants. Participants will be called upon one at a time in the order the hand was raised. When called upon, please unmute. To unmute, from an internet device, click the microphone button at the bottom. From a phone, press *6. Our first participant is Amanda L. It is your turn to speak. Please unmute your microphone, state your name for the record, and your 3 minutes starts now.
Hi, my name's Amanda Lee. I am joining via Zoom rather than in person, as I have a sick child at home today, so yay for the cooler weather. I wanted to start off by thanking those within the community that either are having booths at the farmers market or are going and supporting people at the farmers market, as this really is a great resource for our community and a really great community event that happens every Wednesday. I also wanted to call in this week in support for Steve's recommendation the last council meeting in regards to revising the George Floyd resolution, as the city kind of made it a point not to really appoint anything in regards to racism within our community. A recent video that went viral that was released by a sheriff officer's family or himself to the Fox News has not only gone viral within our community, but also nationwide and worldwide. I had family in Taiwan actually asking me about it because they saw it on the news there. This kind of behavior really does need to be struck down within our city. It's not appropriate behavior from anybody towards anybody, whether it's an officer of the law or whether it's another resident or a waitress or a person working at our grocery store. So I really hope that the city will consider revising that and making an official public statement denouncing racism within the city of San Dimas. I would also like to call in regards to a question about removing the Zoom option starting not this next meeting, but I believe the following one after that. Is there a way for people to comment through phone if Zoom will no longer be an option? I believe we will be able to watch it on Channel 3 or through YouTube. But if you could please clarify that people at home that are unable to make it in person, you just said you're already at capacity, which means people at this point are not going to be able to come in and watch if they wanted to. So is there a second way that they can participate if they are interested in doing so? So, for example, I'm home with a sick child, so I'm unable to attend in person whether I wanted to or not. So I hope that the city will consider either extending Zoom until you can open up to 100% capacity, or have some other way for people to participate in their civic duty here within the city. And I hope everybody has a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next participant, Sean C. It's your turn to speak. Please unmute your microphone, state your name for the record, and your 3 minutes starts now.
Good evening, City Council and members of the audience. The EDD still hasn't come up with a solution to the problem of the backlogged pending payments of those on unemployment insurance. There are about 915,075 claims waiting for certification, and the director of EDD, Rita Sines, said, quote, "To tell you the truth, I think that we're going to begin to see light at the end of the tunnel, probably at the end of June," unquote. Kind of like when April 15th was supposed to be the day that the issue was supposed to be taken care of. Meanwhile, those without a job and needing to feed their families, pay rent, are stuck in limbo and are having a difficult time trying to get a hold of EDD. Those on UI benefits see fit to contact Assembly Holden's office about this issue. You can call his Pasadena office at 626-351-1917 and his office in Claremont at 909-624-7876. Update on both SB 9 and SB 10. Livable California and the many grassroots pro-affordable housing coalitions called the Senate Appropriations Committee in the morning of Monday to express their opposition to the Wall Street big developer Silicon Valley-backed SB 9 and SB 10. The committee, with Senator Portantino chairing, voted unanimously to place both bills on the suspense file. This means is a way for the Appropriations Committee to manage their bills and consider all of the fiscal related bills at the same time, determining which bills stay or leave the suspense file. Again, if you want to be part of the conversation about actual affordable housing and homelessness solutions, visit livablecalifornia.org. And finally, I'm curious to when the Council will place on the agenda the mission statement of the California Cities for Local Control. On the March 23rd Council meeting, it was discussed that this would be on the agenda in late April. Well, where is it? It is not on this agenda, and it wasn't on the last meeting's agenda. I hope I can get a response from the council and staff as to when this will be put on the agenda for future meetings. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick reminder for Zoom participants, for those who wish to speak, please locate the Zoom raise hand feature on the bottom right and click on the hand icon so that we can call you in the order we see your hand raised. Next, participant Tammy, it is your turn to speak. Please unmute your microphone, state your name for the record, and your 3 minutes starts now.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tammy. I am a program administrator at Heritage Youth Services. I wanted to come into the meeting today to let everybody know that we will be opening up our site number 6 in San Dimas on June 1st. We are contracted with DCFS to provide housing for foster teens. We are what's called an STRTP. For those of you that don't know what that stands for, that is a short-term residential therapeutic program. Most of our youth will only be staying approximately 6 months with the hope that they will be able to step down to either a foster home or some form of lower level of care. If anybody has any questions about what we do or any services that we offer, feel free to give us a call. Our corporate offices are located in Pomona at 909-599-8222. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and everybody have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Participant Shirley, you had your hand raised, but it's back down. If you wish to speak, it is your turn to speak now. Please unmute your microphone, state your name for the record, and your 3 minutes starts now.
Thank you. My name is Shirley, and I am calling regarding the ARCO planning. Is it time for me to talk on that, or am I waiting for a public hearing?
Please wait for the public hearing when that item comes up later in the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have participant Gary's iPhone. It is your turn to speak. Please unmute your microphone, state your name for the record, and your 3 minutes starts now. Participant Gary, go ahead. Please unmute your... One more time, please unmute your microphone. If you're calling from a mobile device, please press *6 to unmute. For Gary's iPhone, since we're having technical difficulties, if you'd like to dial in to our phone, 909-394-6206, we'll be able to take your call in. If there are other people on Zoom that wish to participate, please use the raised hand feature now so that we can bring you in the order that we see the hand raised.
Okay, why don't we move on and hopefully he'll call us back.
Okay. Well, there are no other Zoom participants' hands raised at this time.
Okay, let's give it a minute. If Gary's on the phone, let's go ahead and get him in.
Gary, we can hear you. Go ahead with your public comments.
Can I be heard now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead with your public comments.
Okay, the comments were about the plan for the proposed change to the ARCO station at Foothill and San Dimas Canyon Road. I wanted to express my opinion about this. I disapprove of that particular plan for reasons.
I hesitate to interrupt because we had such a hard time getting him on the phone, but that item is next.
Okay.
Yeah, if you could wait until the item's called, I'd appreciate it. Okay, Gary?
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any further?
No further Zoom participants at this time.
Since we've already waited the minute, we'll move on to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion unless a member of the City Council requests a separate discussion. I believe Councilman Ebner is going to make a request.
Yes, can we just approve the consent calendar, then have a discussion and direction on item 4C?
We'll pull it off of the consent calendar. Do I have a motion for the remaining consent calendar?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Yes.
All right, let's bring it back to item 5C. Councilman Ebner.
Yeah, 4C, that's about the appointment interviews, the interviews for candidates for the various commissions. And the staff report had a choice on whether we wanted to do it the way we've traditionally do it, where the mayor and the liaison to the committee, to the commission, interview the candidates, or should the entire city council interview each candidate. So those two options were posed in that particular item, and so we need to have some direction on that.
What do you want to do, John?
I'd say keep it the way it's been.
No problem. I agree.
So move. So the liaison and the mayor would interview the candidates.
That's fine with me. Yep. Yeah, I have no problem with that. It went fairly well for 50 years, so we'll continue it. Just remembering, each person needs to remember that no individual member of the city council appoints anybody to a commission. There's an interview process with the mayor and whoever is the liaison, and at that point, a recommendation comes back to the city council, and the city council decides by a vote, a public vote. Okay, any other questions? Mr. City Manager?
If I may, the question arose when we were reviewing the board commission handbook about the process. We didn't specifically articulate a subset of the council making the decision. And so in effect, what you're asking, which is allowed under the commission handbook, is the establishment of a subcommittee made up of the department liaison and the mayor for each of the vacant positions to be selected. So it's a subcommittee to pick them.
I think you said department liaison. It's the city council liaison.
It's the city council liaison and the mayor to that specific commission, which is exactly what we've been doing historically, and we'll just proceed with that. We just wanted to make sure we had that clarity.
Okay, and then one additional question, and maybe somewhere else, is when are we going to proceed to start trying to fill these positions? Is there any other business that we need to square away before we actually start a process?
No, now that you've selected subcommittees, we can proceed immediately.
I do believe, just for clarity and historical continuity, that the Planning Commission was the only one the council fully interviewed, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
The full council interviews. Okay, I guess there's
just two commissions, the Parks and Recreation Commission and the Senior Commission, have vacancies.
Okay, I guess there was a part of this discussion that there was a period of time that we were accepting applications. Then we went into a pause because of COVID-19. And then now we're trying to figure out, or we have to have any further discussion to renew those, or how are we going to do it? Are we going to just say, okay, the city clerk is going to open that up and the final day, give a final date for communications or for applications? And or are we saying, if you applied for a commission prior to that, those are the last ones to be done? I don't know how that process is working.
So right now we have members already who have applied and we put the pause. We can do whatever is at the pleasure of the council. We could first try and make sure that they're still interested in the commission, and then you can engage in those interviews, or if you decide we want a bigger pool, we can try going back out again, but it will delay the length of time to bring those members on board. And in one commission's case, the Parks and Recreation Commission, they're unable to meet because of lack of quorum.
And you might, I think in the handbook that, or Deborah told us, that those applications remain fresh for a year. So I don't think we I'm trying to think if we had any applications before this time last year for the Parks and Rec. I didn't think so. So those 10 applications, everybody who wants to be on that commission, are still fresh. We could obviously advertise for more, but I'm thinking we should just go ahead personally. And same with the senior commission. I think you've got one vacancy over there that needs to be filled. But I'm okay if you want to advertise some more. That just gives us more people to interact with.
I think, in fairness to the applicants that have been waiting this long, we should process and interview those first, and if we're unable to select from that group, then we should perhaps open it back up.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. I agree.
Okay. Do we need a vote on that, or just the?
Okay.
All right. I'll open it up for a motion to approve 4C.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we will move on to public hearings. Precise Plan 21-0002, Conditional Use Permit 20-0004, and DPRB Case 200018. A request to remodel an existing 1,797 square foot auto repair facility into a convenience store and allow for off-site sale of beer and wine, type 20 ABC license, in association with the existing gas station located at 645 East Foothill Boulevard within the commercial highway CH zone and scenic highway overlay zone. Prior to us asking for a staff report on this matter, I'm going to ask that we continue this matter to a date certain, which would be the next council meeting. In light of starting to get a lot of correspondence concerning it. We received some correspondence today. I personally, being honest with you, up until the staff report that came in on Friday afternoon, there are issues there that I have some concerns about, and I would like to have the opportunity to research it myself and ask more of the staff and to receive more, give the community more time to weigh in on this. So I would ask that we continue it.
I would support that.
I have no problem with that, Mayor.
Do we need a vote?
Yeah, so because it's a formal public hearing, we need a motion to continue to May 25th, I think is the day? May 25th at 6:30 p.m.
I would make such a motion.
I'm sorry, 7 p.m.
If I may.
Dennis will make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I'm looking at Chris.
I just wanted to ask a question of the city attorney to make sure we don't have any noticing issues. Is there any special way we should do this, or is this sufficient?
We just needed to name the date certain and the time, and we did that as part of the motion, so we will not have to republish or anything. We just bring it back at the next meeting.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I have a quick question, though, Jeff. Sometimes in the past, people who were present in the room during that, when we continued it, we allowed them to speak. Do we need to do that now because we have people calling in, or how?
You do not need to do it. We can just hold the item at the next meeting.
Okay, let's do that. And anybody that's wishes to call in, we'd appreciate if you hold your remarks till 2 weeks from tonight at 7 o'clock, and we'll bring this matter forward, and that's a date certain. Okay? Okay, we'll go to other business. Renewal of the mobile home accord for the additional 5 years, June 1st through 2021 through June 1st, 2026. Parties to the agreement: John DeFalco, San Dimas Royale; Greg Silberg, Mobile Land; Brian Alex, Lone Hill Manor, Mobile Home Estates; Aram Salkin, Sienna Valley Estates; and Chris Constantine, Charter Oaks Home Estates. And just so people are aware, Charter Home is owned by the city, and that's why the city manager is involved in this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for clarifying that I don't have a property interest in an item before the council. I'd like to thank first Ms. Ann Garcia, who worked heavily on this agreement, working with all the parties involved. My involvement came into this subsequent to my hiring January 4th. We have had a mobile home accord in place for greater than 25 years. The most recent accord had expired in 2019, December 2019, and then 2 months later the council accepted a request to extend that contract or accord until June of 2020, and then subsequently extend that until December of 2020. Unfortunately, it expired and lapsed because all parties could not come to an agreement on changes to the provision. And those changes centered around the area of passing through property-based assessments. The concern centered around a proposition that was on the ballot for 2020 that would have potentially significantly changed the property tax, the assessment values for the purposes of determining property tax to the mobile home parks, and the mobile home property owner, the actual underlying land property owners, would incur a significant expense that they could not pass on to residents who had mobile homes within the park, thereby constituting a significant burden on the underlying property owners. There was several language changes between all the parties. Staff got involved and was able to identify a way to address the concerns of the underlying property owners as well as the mobile home park owners, who are also concerned about significant rate increases, knowing that the ballot measure had now failed in November, that there may be the potential in the future for additional ballot measures, city or school or other property-based assessment. We wanted to identify the interests of each party and determine the best approach. The interests of the parties, of the owners, were to ensure that any significant change in property-based assessments could be passed on in some manner to the residents, and the residents would have control over how significant of an increase would be pushed forward. And so what we outlined in the attached agreement in red are the changes to this agreement, which allow for a reopener of the agreement in the case of 3 different situations. I won't necessarily go through them since both parties actually accepted it, but in a nutshell, if any unusual, new, or increase on an existing property-based assessment comes forward, that both parties would come to the table and discuss and negotiate how that should be passed on to allow the underlying property owners to remain viable and to allow those who are leasing space in those lands to have a controllable increase in the costs. Should they not come to an agreement, there's one additional enhancement that we provided as a city, that the city will be available to step in and mediate any dispute between the two parties for a reasonable period of time. And at the end of that reasonable period of time, if an agreement is not met, that either party can send notice of termination to the other party in the city, and that termination would take effect 60 days in advance. The timeline was set to allow for about a 5 to 6 month delay, that if an assessment was passed down between the negotiating good faith, the mediation, and then the 60 days after the notice of termination, there would be time for residents to understand the implications of that change with the agreement going away and to be able to make decisions. Both parties agreed to that language that we presented, and we finally now have an agreement which would start June 1st and go for 5 years. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions from the council?
I have one question. Is there a representative from the residents there at this meeting?
We spoke to groups of residents, not just one, as well as groups of owners.
I mean, did they officially elect someone to represent them, or?
I don't quite know how they were selected, but there were multiple individuals in the room. We actually were doing Zoom calls with them.
So it's just, you're just not talking to the owners of the park, you're also talking to the residents?
No, what we did is we provided draft language to both parties, so we would get comments from the residents, and then we'd pass it on to the owners. They would provide comments and back and forth. We had some Zoom calls where I was speaking directly to the residents themselves and explaining what the changes were, as well as to the property owners. And so it was two-sided. So this wasn't one side making a decision on what should we impose and the other side just having to accept it. They mutually agreed this is the right language. It defers the problem to a future time certain, because we felt as the city, now that the ballot measure failed, the likelihood of another property-based assessment is pretty low, but you need to provide certainty to both parties that if something does come down the pike, we'll be able to discuss it mutually together.
Okay, thank you.
Dennis, I sat in on a considerable amount of those meetings, and as far as the residents are concerned, they actually had a gathering from all 5 parks, a representative from all 5 parks, and that they were given the language. They were sent off to review it, come up with some suggestions. They did come back up with some suggestions. Then it was sent over to the owners, and it went back and forth several times, but both parties were represented through a group, and I think the resolution is everybody's satisfied with it.
I'm glad to hear that. That's the way it should be, and I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this isn't a question, but I'll just express my appreciation to the mayor, to Chris, for keeping at it. As you could tell, that it was a tough nut to crack, and I think that everybody compromised a little bit. In a way, it's kicking the can down the road, but we have a process in place for when that might happen. And as one of the Mayor Morris and I were helped negotiate the original one way back when, and that was tough. I mean, that was really tough, and we finally came up with, as you've seen there, the 3% to 7% minimum. And park owners don't have to do 3%, but they can do 3% even if the CPI is lower than 3%. And that was tough for the residents to swallow at that time, although at that time inflation was around 5 or 6%, so people were thinking, well, when are we ever going to go below 3%? But on the other hand, it was a real possibility to go above 7%. So we got that cap on there, and that was, so the owners did give a lot on that, and in return got all the pass-throughs that you've been talking about. And now with the tax uncertainty, I guess you want to call it, I think this is a good solution. So I appreciate everybody's hard work on that.
Thank you. Okay, we guys got direction. We're fine. All right, well, the downtown street light replacement, Civic Center, wooden poles.
Mr. Mayor, I think we need an action to allow us to execute the agreement.
I thought we did.
I move that we approve the proposed renewal of the accord for a 5-year term starting June 1st.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right, now we'll move to the downtown streetlight replacement, Civic Center wooden poles.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Sherry Garger, Director of Public Works. For council review this evening, staff is bringing back its understanding of council's direction for replacement of the wooden streetlight poles that are on the south, east, and northeast side of the Civic Center. Can you do the PowerPoint? While we're waiting, just as a background for members of the audience that weren't aware of the discussion that occurred during the last council meeting, the wooden poles have been in place for over 30 years and have reached the end of their life cycle and need replacement. Council gave staff direction on 2 different types of decorative streetlights that they felt were applicable to the area and were consistent with other lights in the downtown. So, okay. So I see it up on the screen. I don't see it on this screen. Thank you. So the wooden street lights are on the left. Those are the ones that are proposed to be replaced. The replacement street lights are decorative. The middle street light is one of the replacements. It's a nostalgia street light. And to the right of that street light is the metal Copenhagen street lights, which are very similar to the wooden street lights, but they are actually made out of aluminum. On the right is a box. It's an aerial of the Civic Center. For orientation, Bonita is on the south or the bottom of the box. Walnut's on the right, and 2nd Street is on the top or the north side of the screen. It is staff's understanding that council wishes to keep the Nostalgia series in the residential area. This Nostalgia series is shown in the box in yellow, and with the proposed lights being in the dashed polygon. So for the wooden pole replacements, the Nostalgia series would be on 2nd Street, wrapping south onto Walnut for the first 3 lights south of 2nd Street. These lights would be consistent with what was just placed along the border of Civic Center Park, which is a 3000K 80-watt LED lamp. I did want to bring this up that this is different than the lights that are on San Dimas Avenue in front of the Walker House, the Nostalgia series. Those are actually LEDs, and they're 4000K LEDs. Okay. For the business area, staff understands council's direction is to use the metal Copenhagen lights. These lights are shown as the green dots, and the proposed lights are in the green dashed polygon. So for the wooden pole replacement that's on Bonita Avenue, wrapping north onto Walnut for the first 3 lights. So the Nostalgia series would end just north of the Plumber Building, and the Copenhagen lights would start just south of the Plumber Building. So for the Copenhagen lights, The Copenhagen lights would match the existing lights that are in the downtown on Bonita Avenue from San Dimas Avenue to Cataract. Those are a 4,000K LED series light. They also have an aperture and an outlet on the top to provide for decorations and provide for lighted decorations during special events. Part of the discussion last meeting was a discussion of whether or not to install an outlet at the base of these Copenhagen poles. Staff does not recommend that at this time. In order to install that outlet, we'd have to completely redesign the existing system. These lights are unmetered, Edison LS2 series. To install the outlet and power the outlet, we'd have to have a circuit for each bottom outlet, and it would create quite a bit of an expense, and we'd have to trench conduit along the entire length of the series of lights. So that would bring the cost up from about $180,000, which is for just the replacement, to about $300,000.
Say that again, Sherry. I didn't. So that was for trenching to get the outlets for the Copenhagen lights.
Yes, for the Copenhagen lights.
And just, I thought I heard you right, but did you say it's going to be $300,000?
It would be approximately $300,000.
So is that a cost per light you're looking at? Is that generally it, or I guess you're trenching the whole way, so it's including all of that trenching and stuff. Okay.
So. And that also includes, so there'd be some additional concrete repairs as well. So at the south side of the Civic Center, there's actually a 200 amp power feed that was installed to provide for power for special events. This power feed can power approximately 10 jump or cooking equipment for the special events. So with a 200 amp system and the cost of the redesign required to power the bottom outlet, staff does not recommend providing powered outlets at the base of the Copenhagen streetlights. And if in the future council decides to provide additional power, they want to provide additional power, there are other ways to run the additional feed. We can run additional meter, provide another 200 amp feed, probably cheaper than what it would cost to put the outlet at the base of the Copenhagen poles.
Sherry, would power be available to the top of those Copenhagens in case we wanted to put Christmas decorations?
Yes, yes, that is the intent.
But only for that one light?
Yes.
And Sherry, only when the lights are on right at night, correct?
Yes.
So without is this without the outlet at the bottom of the?
Yes. So that
those lights automatically will have power for the Christmas decorations.
Right.
Under the original budget.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
So. Okay. That concludes my report, pending any questions by council.
I had a couple questions. So the nostalgic lights, are those going to be owned by the city?
Yes. So this is an LS2 system. So the light pole and fixture are owned by the city, but the power is unmetered and supplied by Edison. So the conduits that lead up to the actual pole is owned by Edison.
And those lights, I think they're a little shorter than the Edison provided lights in the rest of the town core. Is that right?
It would be the same fixture. Okay. You're talking on the Nostalgia series?
Yeah, because I thought that the ones around Civic Center Park that are on two corners of it now, I thought those were a little shorter than the other ones on 2nd Street and the rest of the town core that have the nostalgic.
John, are you talking about the ones we just installed around Community Park?
No, the ones we just installed compared to the ones we already installed previously. I mean, it doesn't matter that much as long as they're the same height all the way down the street of the ones The new ones, the two new ones on 2nd Street, are the same height as the other ones around Civic Center Park on 2nd Street.
We will get them from the same supplier, yes.
Will be the same, okay. I had asked Sherry in an email earlier about one other question about those two lights, and I think it might be important to try to line those lights up with the other ones along the Civic Center Park, the new ones on 2nd Street. They're near the street, maybe a foot or two, I don't know what it is, foot or two from the curb. And then when it gets down past the library driveway, they come to the inside of the sidewalk. So I was wondering if we could, and how much it would cost, to move those two lights to the curb, as almost everything else in the city is, and then they line up with the other lights on 2nd Street.
I understand what you're saying, and I'd be interested in what the cost is to do that. I'm not sure the way where I'm hearing things, start moving poles and undergrounding and stuff, it could become quite expensive. And honestly, I'd like to, I realize we want to stay consistent, but it's that way already now, and it doesn't seem to be a major problem. But I'd be interested in what the cost factor is.
So we estimated a cost about, with the replacement of concrete and additional conduit that we'd have to run, is approximately $2,500 per pole.
Is that where they're at right now, or is that would it be the new location?
So it would be an additional $2,500 per each pole that you're moving to the front of the, or right behind curb.
What's the total?
So there's two lights there, it's $5,000.
So,
Just
right,
two?
for the two lights on 2nd Street to be consistent with the,
I don't think I would have a problem with that, but I'd be more concerned about what the staff believes is the right location. I think you guys are studying it and making that decision, but I wouldn't have a major problem with that at all. But I would like to hear, your opinion, your staff's opinion.
we would try in the design, we would try to match what's existing on 2nd Street. So it is a good idea to move them to behind curb to be consistent. Council's pleasure on Walnut, because we would either all want them up front or behind the sidewalk.
Where are they at right now? The three that are up closest to Bonita?
So all of the street lights are actually behind sidewalk.
Is that what staff would recommend?
Yes.
And I'm willing to just take those two and get them up to the street. I will make a comment, though, about those other ones on Walnut. And so Walnut's right out here. So when you go out there, you'll notice that there's, I think, 3 Cobra heads on the east side of the street. So throughout the city, I mean, almost everywhere, street lights, whether there's a sidewalk there or a parkway, are up against the curb if they're a street light. The street lights on Walnut are really the Cobra heads, okay? They're the ones that are doing the work of lighting the street. The other ones are decorative. And so in light of that, I would, for one thing, make them less wattage. They're not really, I mean, they are obviously lighting the sidewalk, but the 80-watt 3000 Ks are doing a fine job of lighting the sidewalk right around Civic Center Park that we just installed. If you go out there, you'll see that's lit really well. And that's 3000 K 80 watt as opposed to the 4000 K 100 watt equivalent, I believe that you're talking about. So just with that in mind, and I won't, you'll be glad to know I'm not going to haul out all those studies I had a couple of years ago about the 3000 Ks and the 4000 Ks.
I was waiting.
You like that, didn't you? But no, the thing is that 4000 K, the studies show, is really a glare that, we talked about glare last time, and it's a glare that drivers and everybody else is really, it's actually not healthy according to, I was at the CDC or wherever I got that study, I can't remember what it was. So I would just suggest, so if we're not going to move them to the curb and make them street lights, they're more decorative, then let's tone it down a bit to the 3000 K, which is what we've installed everywhere in the city. we've done all the Cobra heads. Instead of the 4,000, we went to the 3,000, and those seem bright enough, in my opinion.
Can I ask a question? Hypothetically, I know we're at a publicly noticed meeting. Is there any issue on walking out there really quick to look at those lights? Because I'd like to physically look at where he's talking about moving those up and down Walnut.
Take a 10-minute recess.
Yeah, you could take a 10-minute recess to do it, but I just caution the council not to have a majority of you discussing while you're out there. But you can walk out and take a look in a 10-minute recess.
Is there a need to take a recess if we're in a public meeting and we all walk out there and it's still open to the public?
I guess effectively that is a recess and if you all walk out.
And well, we could still continue the discussion. The public's still allotted and we're still physically at the address here at City Hall. Is that an issue?
I think that'd be changing the location of the meeting. I would rather that the council not do that. But if you wanted to take a recess.
I'll move that we take a 15-minute recess.
All right.
Can we ask Sherry to point out the lights we're talking about?
Yeah, maybe in groups of, 2 or less, if you want to meander and give us some pointers so we can see what we're looking at really quick.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. All right, we'll reconvene the San Dimas City Council meeting after a brief recess for a field trip out to look at lights. I'll bring this meeting back to order. Sherry, continue.
So we're ready for staff or council's consensus on the location of the lights. Are you? My understanding after the discussion is that we're going to, on 2nd Street, we're going to move the Nostalgia Series lights to the curb. And then on the Nostalgia Series on Walnut, we'll move to the curb. And the metal Copenhagen will be behind sidewalk. Was that what I understood to be the consensus?
Well, I think Councilman Ebner and I went out and looked at that with Sherry. I can see what Councilman Ebner's talking about as it relates to the placement of the nostalgia lights, the 3 going north, as well as the 2. So after looking at that, I do think it makes a lot of sense for the nostalgia lights to come forward to the sidewalk. However, as it relates to the Copenhagen lights, just to maintain the continuity, as well as, one, the continuity of what's occurring on that corner, and 2 is for walking safety lighting reasons for the Civic Center, I would propose leaving those 3 recessed. So I don't know, John, your thoughts?
No, I agree with that. After looking at it and talking about it with Sherry, Sherry pointed out that the eventual plan, who knows when this would happen, but for the nostalgia lights, is to actually take them up Walnut, and all of the ones north of 2nd Street would, of course, be near the curb. And Ryan mentioned that, so the nostalgic lights are kind of like the entrance to the residential neighborhood, whereas the Civic Center and the business with Circle K and everything else in the Civic Center going to be the Copenhagen lights, where they are right now. So that would be 5 lights going to the curb. What's 5 times 2,500?
Don't get in the weeds, John. Just let it ride.
Some amount of money.
All right. All right. Well, let's make sure we clarified this. I stopped by there last Wednesday night at the time of after the farmers market, and I took a look at those lights, so I have a good understanding of what they're actually talking about. But I'm going to make sure that everyone knows that there was at no point out there on the street no 3 councilmen talking about this or anything like that. The discussion was, most of the council stayed in here because they'd already looked at it and viewed it. So just for that. So I guess we're looking for some type of a motion, but to make sure everybody has their feelings.
I would move that we approve staff's recommendation as outlined in the staff report with the amendments that the 2 lights off of 2nd Street as well as the 3 lights identified as nostalgia are all moved to the curb line on their seats, on those respective streets.
Second that.
Okay.
Second.
In discussion? My question is, before we left, you guys were in the process of trying to figure out 3,000 and 4,000. What are we talking about there?
I mean,
you guys had this, one of you said 3,000, one of them said 4,000, and...
Right. Well, those nostalgic lights were always going to be the 3,000. So the only question is, what should the Copenhagen lights be? 3,000 is a little bit more, you can still make it as bright, it's just a warmer, slightly warmer color, and some people say that it's just a little bit easier on the eyes and that kind of thing.
I do think for me, the consistency of whatever we have in the Copenhagen lights currently would be my preference, so there's not a difference optically in that layup there. Consistent with what we have in the rest of downtown.
Dennis, you have anything to say?
No, I agree. I go along with this. Sounds fine.
Eric?
That works for me. I like the consistency with bulb choice from downtown to those ones that go north on Walnut as well.
Okay. I'm going to go for the consistency, but I'm also going to defer to the staff and let, what you guys believe is the right thing to do. And if you need to come back at some point, that's fine. But I think that we have a staff. They've done this research on this. And I got to be honest, I don't know the difference between a 60-watt bulb and a 100-watt bulb. So the reality is now we're talking 3,000 and 4,000.
I'm good with the staff report as proposed with the 4,000.
Yeah, and I'll go along with that, with the amendment that Ryan just mentioned. And I think, was that a motion?
The original motion was staff's report as recommended, with the amendment being the placement.
Yeah, I think that's all, the only change, and I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you gave us good choices, so I appreciate that.
Okay, are we going to ever have to come back to lights again in the next month or two?
Hope not.
All right, we're going to go to staff and city council reports. City manager, COVID-19 update.
Do you mind if I just take all the reports all together?
I appreciate that. That'll be fine, because we have a very extensive closed session for...
I'll keep it to under 25 minutes. I'm kidding.
You do it what you need to do.
So on Thursday this week, we're going to have a quality of life special meeting of the council. The agenda is already posted. We're going to have presentations by various departments about the different programs and services, issues, and activities that impact quality of life, with the primary goal of soliciting public input. And this is really just the starting point, not the beginning and end of public input on what are issues impacting quality of life and what are the type of solutions the community wants to see us explore, so that we could evaluate that and determine the best course of action to enhance our quality of life. As many are aware, last Friday we had one of the first structure fires of one of our own buildings. Extremely unfortunate. We were literally running into a part of the season where through our COVID restrictions are lifting, and the potential for significant activity and revenue was ahead at the golf course. The clubhouse had a fire that ignited within the kitchen area, completely destroying the kitchen and significantly damaging the building, rendering it inaccessible for public events and activities. The golf course is moving forward. They're continuing operations. They were literally working, I think, the next day in terms of allowing people to be out on the golf course. But revenue that comes from food and revenue that comes from their pro shop currently it will not be available until alternative measures are brought forward. There was a question that has been asked about finances related to fixing this. The golf course operator has insurance that covers fires. We additionally are insured through our insurance JPA that provides full replacement value. And so to the community, the cost to the city should be nothing in terms of this claim and restoring that building to where it should be. It will be restored to higher standards, current ADA and current fire and building code standards when it is. We extended an offer of employment to an excellent candidate to be our next Parks and Recreation Director. We're currently completing the background process, and we're hoping to be finished in the next 10 to 15 days, and are very excited to be able to complete this process and bring somebody on board who brings a wealth of experience and depth in a variety of areas. While I would want to tell you who this person is, we want to wait until we go through the full process, but just know we're very close to finally having a permanent Parks and Recreation Director. In 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Police Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15 falls is National Police Week. This is that week. Established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. National Police Week is a time for communities to thank the men and women of law enforcement and reflect upon the sacrifices they make every day to keep our communities safe. We know all too well that many police agencies have made the ultimate sacrifice on multiple occasions in our history. Unfortunately, as I speak these words, some other agencies will feel the bitter sting of a similar sacrifice. That knowledge will not stop the many men and women in the 18,000 agencies across this great nation from showing up and suiting up for duty every day. It never has. I have witnessed time and time again the remarkable courage and sacrifice of police officers across the country. Let us never forget their selflessness in serving and protecting the people in every town and every state in this nation. On Police Officers Memorial Day, May 15th, and during Police Week, I hope all communities will pay tribute to those peace officers who protect their community and honor those who have laid down their life in service. As I said before about the bitter sting, we, in the last 24 hours, have lost 2 police officers in California. Detective Luca Benedetti from San Luis Obispo police officer lost his life yesterday executing a search warrant that turned into a shootout. And just today, and released within the last hour, the name of the individual. Stockton police officer Jimmy Inn, who lost his life today in a domestic violence call. We should honor their service, and we should honor the service of all our men and women in uniform. As part of our COVID update, we have been in the yellow tier since Thursday, May 6th. We look forward to when we'll be able to get out of the yellow tier and be in the most unrestrictive and back, hopefully, to some semblance of normalcy during the course of the summer. The county is currently transitioning and has in some cases transitioned to no employment vaccinations. And so while we've exceeded 50% vaccination in the city of San Dimas, the hopeful folks can just go and take those vaccinations and increase those rates. A speaker at the beginning of the meeting talked about the status of Senate Bill 9. Yesterday, a hearing was scheduled for the Senate bill at the Senate Appropriations Committee. While proponents and opponents were allowed to speak, the author waived any presentation, and the bill was placed on the suspense file. The suspense file is a location where there's a variety of criteria, but generally, any bill that has a financial impact greater than $150,000 or any establishment of a committee, study, or anything of that nature as part of that goes into the suspense file and is considered with all the remaining bills that are just like that at a suspense file meeting. That meeting will occur May 20th, and the bill will be heard with other bills with significant financial impact, and one of 2 actions will be taken. It either will be passed to the Senate floor, or it will be continued in what is called almost the abyss, where the likelihood of it coming out of that status will not occur and that bill will die. So we'll keep tracking that bill and determine when it moves, if it moves to the Senate floor, what kind of changes we could see. In terms of our gold line update, I'd like to turn it over, and this is my last update, I want to turn it over to Public Works Director Sherry Garwick to provide you an update of what's coming down the pike. There are some pretty significant road closures that we're still working on with the gold line with schedules that are still moving. So with that, Sherry.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Gold Line will be hosting a virtual community meeting on May 19th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. You'll have to sign up ahead of time, so you can sign up at foothillgoldline.org. Again, that's foothillgoldline.org. That's all one word. Euclid Crossing remains closed just north of Bonita Avenue, and it is estimated to remain closed through August. Work will begin again at the southeast corner of Bonita and Cataract at the vacant lot there. There was a utility conflict that had to be resolved before the work could move forward, but they should be starting this week or early next week. The traffic signal at Bonita San Dimas Avenue is scheduled to be put into operation next week. This will add left turn phasing for both east and westbound Bonita at San Dimas Avenue. There's quite a bit of work that's being scheduled for the Gold Line over the next few months. The intersection of Bonita and San Dimas Avenue should begin work next week for widening. And you'll also see you've also seen some of the tree removals on Bonita Cataract And there may be some additional tree removals on San Dimas Avenue. We're working with Gold Line to save what trees we can. There's been an estimated about approximately 41 trees removed within the city to date. Gold Line we're negotiating with Gold Line for a replacement cost of the trees. And for the trees that have been removed in the Gold Line right-of-way, those trees will be placed at a 2-to-1 ratio. And we're negotiating with the Gold Line to make sure that those trees get replaced within the city. There's been several changes to the Gold Line schedule that are very significant as to, for instance, which crossing will be closed next. We had hoped to have an update for council at this meeting, but there's been some last-minute changes that came in today. So I want to verify those before we move forward with notifying council and the public. So hopefully next meeting we'll have more of a discussion on the next schedule for the crossing closures.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Okay. City Attorney, have some words of wisdom?
No update tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, members of the City Council, our first thing on the agenda is to appointment of a mayor pro tem and determining the length of term. It's come to my dismay because Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Bertone.
The reason I brought this up was that I think we should get back on our schedule, and we got off of it because of the virus and everything. And so I think that the Mayor Pro Tem should serve for 1 year, and we should make the change every June. That's when we have our elections, but we should get back on the schedule, and I would advocate that the second meeting in June or whatever, that we would elect a mayor pro tem, and that person would serve for 1 year, and then 1 year from then we'd elect the next one, and so forth.
Prior to COVID, we did it in April, but we asked that the mayor pro tem.
I just said June because that's the election. That's the time we have an election.
Right. Some elections are going to be in June now, and some will be in April or March, depending on.
So I would advocate the second meeting in June we elect a new mayor pro tem.
I think that's a good move.
And stick to the schedule.
Super.
I agree. And so, you're mayor pro tem right now. Are you saying that this June we should change?
Right, this June. That's fine. Yeah, I've been mayor pro tem before. It's fine.
So you'll stay
I think it's better to have an exact schedule so we know what's going to happen.
But we'll conduct a.
Is that okay with the city manager?
That sounds like an excellent approach.
Okay.
We'll conduct an appointment and to take effect the second meeting in June.
Well, I think the second part of Dennis's thoughts there was to get on a schedule of who is going to be next and who's next after that, et cetera, and have sort of a protocol to go by. And, I looked at the chart that was provided in the packet, and I made my own chart because it was easier for me to read. And believe it or not, it's just I could pass it out. But the long and the short of it is the next person on the list is really Eric.
Right.
So Eric should be the next mayor pro tem. And then we have time to get the rest of the schedule, but I think we should look at what our past practices have been and then just, like Dennis is saying, stick to a schedule. So it's a year-long position, and we don't have to guess who's going to be, and there's never a discussion or, controversy about it.
I agree with you. No problem. That what kind of vote do we want to do? Eric, you want to do this job?
It sounds like I don't have much of a choice.
No, you don't. Really.
No, you don't.
You really don't.
I think we can trust Eric.
Okay. Do we need a motion or just a consensus?
I mean, I think for right now, the consensus is to bring the item back at the second meeting in June, so you guys can appoint, and then you could talk about a process then if you wanted to formally adopt it.
Super. Yeah. All right. Everybody in agreement?
Fine.
Thank you. Any council member reports of meetings attended at the expense of the local agency?
You know, there's no expense, but I did attend a SCAG meeting. You want to hear about that right now?
Yeah.
So SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments, and the General Assembly, they have that every year. And so it was a Zoom meeting. And they had to take roll because it was with Zoom, and they had to take a roll when they did a vote. And it was because it was by Zoom, and the vote itself took like 15 minutes to do. But besides that, the only thing I was going to, there was a lot of things talked about, but the one thing I'm going to mention is that every year they have these sustainability awards, and they have about 5 or 6 projects that are, innovative for one reason or another. The one that I thought was interesting, it was the first one they gave out last Thursday, was about I want to call it another tool that Santa Ana is using to provide housing, and affordable housing at that. So they adopted an ordinance which allows office buildings that are underutilized or completely vacant, for that matter, and this isn't just like one office someplace, but an office building of some kind or a complex, to be used for housing and for affordable housing. So what they did is they've got an arts scene going there in Santa Ana, so they created what they call the Santa Ana Arts Collective Affordable Housing. They took an old Wells Fargo bank building, which, if you're familiar with Santa Ana, is kind of right in the downtown area. I think it's on Main Street, right by Norm's, right there in downtown, near downtown Santa Ana. And they converted it into some apartments. They built a few townhomes. Altogether, they're providing 58 affordable units. The residents have to be 30 to 60% of the median income of the area, so that's what qualifies them as affordable. And they have like a professionally run art gallery on the first floor, some other commercial on the first floor, and some community space and all that. But anyway, it's like there's a link that I could forward to the council, or I don't know, Jeff, if I can myself forward it to the council, forward it to Chris to forward, that would show you the sustainability awards that they gave.
You can let the city manager know, send it to him, and then he can distribute it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Councilman Weber, I have that. I'll send it out.
I'm sorry.
I have that. I'll just send it out.
Oh, great. Thank you. So yeah, that's my report on that meeting.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to council members' future items, comments, and updates. Dennis.
I'd like to discuss just for a second with the city manager, can chime in, a meeting we're having on this Thursday, which is May the 13th. There seemed to be a lot of interest in that at the Senior Citizens Commission, and the public is welcome, right? I'm assuming they can come. We're going to do 50% seating in here.
Correct. We're hoping to fill the 50% capacity, and then we'll also have Zoom, both the phone version of Zoom and the video version, to provide accessibility to folks.
And this starts at 6:30.
Correct.
And I think it's important that people should participate, and so you're welcome to come, or you're welcome to participate electronically. And that's it. But I think it's the 13th, and it's really an important meeting, and we'd like to hear from the public.
Absolutely. We've been blasting it quite widely. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Okay. Any other?
No, that's it.
Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor. First, thanks, Chris, for bringing up National Police Week. You must have got my notes. It is National Police Week, and that being said, we've had some interesting things involving law enforcement in town the last couple weeks. Number one is, which drew national attention, was a traffic stop by one of our deputies here at San Dimas Station. I encourage everybody to go take a moment to watch that video. And I think take some time to watch the deputy and how they conducted themselves and how they responded to that situation. I think the deputy did an outstanding job and exemplifies a tradition of service that we know at the Sheriff's Department and the deputies that serve San Dimas Station. I'm very proud of that deputy, and I know he just exemplifies the men and women that are out there doing the job, keeping our community safe. So to the Sheriff's Station, good job, and keep them up, keep up the good work, and say thanks to that particular deputy. Police Week, and I had talked about it last year. There were 2 police officers who gave their lives here in San Dimas, one in history in 1922, if I remember correctly, and then another in 1995. We have lost officers here protecting this community, and it's important that we remember them. And as Chris talked about, police officers lost their lives yesterday and today. Never forget the sacrifice these people make or sometimes have taken when they're doing the job. That brings us to the incident that occurred recently at San Dimas High School. I find that incident disturbing. And I've read and heard a lot of comments regarding that. I would ask that the city manager reaches out to the school district and speaks with them regarding the concerns that the city, or at least I can say I've heard from community members regarding that particular incident. And I'd like to know what they do in terms of campus safety, if they have proctors on campus, and what they are doing to keep the youth safe that attend those schools. I think the Sheriff's Department in the city, I think, does its part as it relates to that. And I am aware we have a school resource deputy at that location. But I'd like to know, we only have so many resources, if you will, and they can't be everywhere at once. So I just would like to know if you could get back to me or get back to us collectively regarding that at some point, maybe in the near future. Other than that, I just wanted to say thank you to the members of the Senior Citizen Foundation for all their work. Dennis did express thanks on behalf of council. I'm a little bummed out that when I applied to be on a commission, I couldn't get on the senior commission because they do all the cool stuff. But that being said, one day maybe I'll be the liaison, who knows. But in the meanwhile, thank you to all the men and women that make that great. And I hope everybody has a outstanding week ahead, 2 weeks. Thank you.
Eric?
I didn't have anything to add comments-wise, but something popped into my head, and it was regarding a Zoom request for some clarification about the June 8th meeting when we go back. And it was whether phone communication would occur after that June 8th meeting. If we could clarify that for them, that'd be great.
My understanding of the direction from council that effective at the June meeting, we would go back to the pre-COVID process with a limitation of 50% capacity of in-person. So we would only be doing in-person public communication.
Thank you. I just wanted to have that clarified for them. And I think there was a mention of capacity inside of the council chambers. When that got brought up, I just did a quick head count. We were below the capacity, so we were less than half of what the capacity is, even at 50% capacity. So we could still fit quite a few more people in here and meet the regulations, as well as we still have the overflow area that I believe that we're planning on using if we have some sort of topic that generates a lot of public interest and there's a lot of public input. And that's it.
Thank you. John?
Well, I just want to add my thanks to law enforcement, as Chris and Ryan eloquently expressed it. So I'll just say thanks to that. You know, I think our sheriff's department and our deputies do a great job here in San Dimas. And just yesterday, I was talking to a new neighbor who moved in, and you know, we talked for a while, but one thing we talked about was the graffiti spate about a couple years ago, and how the sheriff's department really jumped in and beefed up patrols and caught people, and were he having moved from someplace else, he and his wife was surprised that the sheriff's department would take that close of an interest in a neighborhood problem like that. And I told him that's the way our department is. So thanks to law enforcement for all of that. And I wanted to just segue a little bit on the housing that I talked about a minute ago. Santa Ana has that ordinance, and it doesn't hurt for us to put a bunch of tools like that in our toolbox for housing. We're working on the housing element, and actually the housing element, there's been a committee, but the council has not really been involved in that very much that I know of, and giving very much direction or suggestions. So I want to make sure that we're not just getting a final product up here to comment on at the very end of the process, when all the experts and citizens and everybody have had their input. We can add other things besides just the low-hanging fruit. What I've seen so far, it looks like low-hanging fruit is what the operative word has been from the people working on the housing element, looking at vacant property or property that's about to turn over from one use to another. But with housing, our arena number, it's high, 1,248 units, and affordable housing is, about 500 or 600 of that number. But we really have to use these different tools. One is that I think even if we don't use it, it's not bad to have an ordinance about the office reuse, and we could look to Santa Ana and see what that ordinance says. Obviously, we'd have to tailor it to ourselves. But there's other things we can do, like overlay zones, where you have an actual zone, and we have this over on the other side of the tracks, where public storage and a lot of, it's not where Grove Station in your complex is, but it's to the east of that. So it's zoned for one thing now, but there's an overlay zone so that if somebody wants to come in and do something different, we're able to do that. So we could do that in multiple places around the city. Anyway, I won't give examples, but we can do that. And then we can also identify areas that may or may not be ripe for housing development right now, but they could transition at some point. And even if we just say, give the property owners the ability to do housing, and I'm thinking mainly of industrial sites, if they just wanted to do that for some reason, that, anyway, these are all things to think about. I'm thinking, I don't want to do like let's try one thing and solve the whole problem with one tool. Let's look at more tools and have these ideas come to the city council and have a little bit of back and forth before we get too far down the road. That's just a thought on housing. And of course, affordable housing, I didn't include the inclusionary zone, which requires affordable housing, but there's a lot of tools that we should, or ordinances, I've said the word tool too many times, and put in our bag of tricks. I did want to make a comment about the Zoom meetings, because I got a couple people talking to me about them. And, it's not just people who Zoom or some other way of interacting remotely, at least for some people I've talked to, and if you think about it, and I just started making a list as I was replying to one of them, and people who have kids, sometimes it's hard to come down here and get to the meeting. It's great for all of us retired people. We don't have anything to do, so we can come down here and just hang out at a city council meeting. But people who have kids, someone's taking care of an adult family member, somebody who happens to like multitasking, so they're doing stuff at home, either cooking or reading a book, but they want to watch the city council meeting at the same time. Somebody who's out of town, somebody who's just not here but wants to participate in the meetings because they're a San Dimas resident. Somebody who just got in from doing a day's work in the yard or got home from work and just doesn't feel like coming down to the meeting in person. Somebody who's doing their homework, somebody who's elderly and or anybody who can't drive, elderly or otherwise. There's a lot of reasons that people cannot be here in person, and it's not just COVID. This is sort of an ongoing thing. So I know we're transitioning to no Zoom, no calls June 8th, but if you want to rethink that, maybe we should go a little longer with Zoom just to let people enjoy that for a while. But that's just a couple thoughts on the, I just wanted to give one example. I wrote it down here, so I'll give it. About a week and a half ago, I was meeting with a small group of residents up in Villa Verde, and one couple, they're retired, and the wife and her sister take care of her 92-year-old mother. So even though COVID is, on the wane, she wanted to meet outside, distance with masks and everything. And she said she would never come to a meeting in person right now because she's just too worried about that slight chance that she's going to contract something. Now, we can all say you shouldn't worry about it and all that, but for this woman, she is not available to come here in person. So I'm just trying to think of how we can include those people, all those kinds of people I just mentioned, in our process. So it's just something to think about. Lastly, COVID is coming to an end, we hope, and I just think we should start thinking about what kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, monument, memorial, some kind of thing, some kind of physical thing to do in the city to memorialize this trying year and a half that we've had. So I'm just putting it out there for thought right now. I don't know what it would be. But anyway, that's about all I got tonight, Mayor.
It may be something that we should look at down the line here and maybe put together, I don't want to say too loud, some kind of subcommittee or something to think about it, but it's definitely something that we could think about. I can't guarantee where it'd go, but I'm not sure that I'm opposed to it. Okay. All right, I just want to, a couple of things. Last week, along with the city manager, I met with the Goal Line construction people that are actually doing the physical work at Cataract and Bonita. And they gave us a little site plan, and we asked them to provide us with some renderings that are now in the City Hall lobby and some models that were around, hidden away somewhere in the back rooms of the City Hall here. But they're now out front. If anybody wants to see where the direction is that the goal line is going as far as through the city of San Dimas, and shows a rendering of the bridge and things like that. You might just wander in the City Hall and take a look at it. It's pretty interesting. You're going to see within the next few weeks, they're actually going to physically start with the first phase being at Cataract and Bonita. They're going to start actually relocating, moving Bonita to the south to start making the loop. So they'll be doing that. It'll be some time, but when it'll be a seamless thing that when they start the bridge, we'll have the road already coordinated there. So that's going to work out pretty good. And they're involving the city. Sherry and her group of people are very much involved in it. And I think we got a good rapport right now with them, probably better than we've ever had with them. And they're understanding some of our dilemmas. One of the things Chris told us about was the fire up at San Dimas Golf Course. I just want to thank the staff who were up there most of the night, the fire department who was up there all night, and the sheriffs that were up there also. In fact, I believe our staff was there as long as anybody else. I got up there about 6 o'clock in the morning and ran into Brad Stewart and Eric Brillstein, who are building officials, and our facilities manager, and they were getting things together, met with the golf course people, and the golf course people were already making arrangements, long-term arrangements, to be able to put together some type of operational thing for they can keep going. I knew we were in pretty good, not good shape because of the fire, but it's one of those things. When I turned the corner onto Terrebonne, the first thing I saw was golfers out on the tee box and on the green. So the golfers didn't miss anything. They all felt sad for what they were going to do after the golf game, but I'm sure they figured that out. But the reality is, it was a good feeling just to see that people were still going about their business. That they were saddened because it's been a building that's been around for a lot of years, and they've had a lot of fun in it. But having talked with the golf course, one of the things that they said that they're going to build it bigger and better, and I think we're fortunate that they're going to be doing that. You know, one thing that's I just want to say, and I hope not to offend anybody, but I received an email recently, and it was concerning to me that there was discussion about our homeless problem, and we are going to be discussing that on Thursday night. We're going to be talking about where we can go and some of the laws that are affecting us with those type of things. But one of the things was saying that either the mayor or the city council was only concerned about a trail, a walking path up in Via Verde, and the other thing was the lights and the new lights and things around Community Park. But that's not at all true. Okay, this entire city council is concerned about the homelessness. We're trying to come up with a process. The city staff is working with several cities around to try to come up with a plan. Okay, and unfortunately, plans don't get through politics very well. Okay, we have, state issues. We have. The county has, requirements for us. So we're continuously trying to figure out where it is. And believe me, I think the homeless issue that we have here is equally as frustrating to everybody sitting up here at this dais. We know there's a situation. We know there's a problem. Okay, so we're working on it. The staff is they're embedded with this every day. And so I just want you to understand that. And as far as the projects that I mentioned, the Via Verde path, the community park lighting and the sidewalks around it, those projects were approved 2 and 3 years ago. Okay, not by this existing council. I was on it. I met Dennis was on it. John was on it. And these were projects that were brought forward, voted on, started the planning of it, and it was we figured out how to pay for it. So it's not something that today that all we're concerned about is doing these projects. They're projects that were long-term projects long before COVID came, and as anybody up here will tell you, when you come up with a project of that caliber, it takes many years of planning and figuring out how to pay for it with the different types of paying procedures that we have. So I just want everyone to know that we are very much aware about our homeless issue, and we're continuing to work on it and continuing to come up with some innovative plans. And Thursday night will be a good time to be able to hear from the community, and please, call in, come. We're going to be at 50% capacity. And as I'm sitting here right now, I actually see 3 members of the audience. So there's going to be plenty of room for anybody who might want to come and get it. Yes, earlier we had a few more people, but not near 50%, because we have the senior American people here and the senior commission people, but they left within 15 minutes of the beginning of the meeting. So, but thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go into closed session with a conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. The second one is successor agency and city council closed session, conference with real property negotiators. Okay, the third is successor agency and city council closed session, conference with real property negotiators. I understand that John has to recuse himself from 2 of these issues. Is that True?
The middle one for sure. The other one, I'm not even sure what it's about. So maybe.
Yes, Council, the third item, because it involves 108 North Cataract and 112 North Cataract, those are within 500 feet of Councilmember Eberner's property. So Councilmember Eberner should recuse himself from B and C. Also, with respect to C, the 301 South Walnut and or the Park and Ride at 100 West Railway are within 500 feet of property that Councilmember Vienna owns, and so therefore he should recuse himself from item C as well tonight.
So we're going to handle A immediately after a 10-minute break.
Okay. Got it.
City Council met in closed session tonight to discuss the 3 items on the closed session agenda. Councilmember Ebner, due to a real property conflict of interest, owning property within 500 feet, did not participate in item B, real property negotiations. Councilmember Ebner and Councilmember Vienna did not participate in item C due to real property interest, owning property within 500 feet. On all 3 of the closed session items, the council had a discussion with staff, and council gave direction to staff, but no reportable action was taken, and tonight's meeting is adjourned.